Alright everyone, so this week we're going to work on circles, and today specifically the learning targets are that I can write the equation of a circle and then I can graph a circle. So before we do that though, we're going to kind of talk about how we get the equation of a circle. Alright, so first the definition of a circle is that it's the set of all points in the coordinate plane that are a fixed distance from the center. So a lot of times when we define a circle, we use HK as the coordinates of the center of the circle, and then we can use XY just as any points that are on the outside of the circle. And you can see I have this little coordinate plane here, so I have X there, and then I have got Y there, so the X-axis and the Y-axis, okay? And the radius is also there. The radius would be the distance from the center, as you guys know, to the outside of the circle. So all of these are little radii, and you can tell that they would always be a fixed distance to the outside of the circle. So that's the radius. All right, well, we're going to be able to do this, particularly if you remember the distance formula. So remember the distance between any 2 points on the coordinate plane. If your points were x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, you can just subtract the x coordinates and then square that, then plus, and then you can subtract the y coordinates and square that. Then you take the square root and bam, that's your distance. So we're going to use that. You can also use the Pythagorean theorem to kind of show where the equation of the circle comes from. I'm just going to use the distance formula this time. All right, so we go back to our circle here, and let's say that we have this radius. Okay, so just remember that picture right there. So the distance we already know is the radius, and then we're going to set it up. So I'll go to the next slide for the work that we're going to show. All right, so we have a distance r, we have the radius, and then we have the 2 points. Now the 2 points, instead of x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, I'm going to use the center as one of the points. The center is one of the points here, hk, and then the xy is considered one of the points that's on the outside of the circle. All right, so what should we plug in for the d? What is that distance? Correct. Talking to myself, the distance would be r. All right, so then we're going to do square root. Now we're going to subtract those x coordinates. Now look at the x coordinates. Here's one of them, and then here's the other one. So let's go ahead and subtract those. So x minus h, we're going to square that, plus, now let's go ahead and subtract those y coordinates. So here are the y coordinates. So let's do y minus k, and then we're going to square that. Well, the last thing to do is that if we wanted to get rid of the radical sign or the square root sign, what we can do is we can square both sides of the equation. So when we square both sides of the equation, we get r squared equals, we lose the radical, so then it would be x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared, and voila, that is the equation of a circle that we're going to utilize today. So here it is, exact same thing, it's just the order, from the left to the right side of the equation changed. This is how we normally write it, but again, just same exact thing. What you'll want to remember is that the h and the k is considered the center of the circle, and the r is considered the radius. And usually we're going to leave the x and the y just as x and y because we want it to apply to all the points on the outside of the circle, not just one particular point. All right, so how do we utilize this now that we've got a nice equation? Well, if you already know the center and you know the radius, you can easily write the equation of the circle. So you can just basically plug in your little h and your k. So that's your h, that's your k. The radius, of course, is your r in the equation. So I'll go ahead and just show the work and plugging it in. So x minus, we're going to plug that h in there. So that would be x minus a negative 2, and then we would square that, plus, and then it would be y minus, and again for the k, now we're going to plug in a 5, and then we're going to square that, and that equals the radius squared, so that's going to be 3 squared. So then we typically don't leave it like this, because whenever we see a minus minus, we're like, ugh, that's hideous. So we're going to make it x plus, not 3, 2. So x plus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 9. So this is the most simplified way to write it. Okay? Let's try another one. All right. So let's plug it in. So we got x minus. So for the h, this is your h and your k. This is your r. So we're going to do x minus 4 quantity squared plus, and then y. And now what some people do is instead of, doing the whole y minus minus thing, they're like, hey, this is a negative 1. I'm going to just make this y plus 1 squared. And I'm actually okay with that. And if it's already, it's just a positive 4, it has to be x minus. So again, if it's negative, it makes it plus. Sometimes students will just remember that it's the opposite sign. And then for the radius, we're going to say radical 5, but we know that we need to square that radius as part of the equation of the circle. So then we would simplify just a little bit. So we would say x minus 4 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals, and then when we square that, remember when you square a radical, it just gets rid of the radical sign. So then that would be just a 5. So this would be your nice equation of a circle. All right, let's do the next thing. Let's try to sketch the graph of a circle. So when you look at an equation of a circle, you can definitely tell what the center is, because it's, in this particular case, it's missing the h and the k. So that means it's really just x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 36. So we can tell that the center for this one would be 0, 0, and the radius would be 6. I should have written center. So the radius would be equal to 6. Okay, so 0, 0, so then we just plot the point, 0, 0, that's your center. And then if you know the radius is 6, you could just go 6 in each direction. Just left and right and up and down is easy enough. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this way. So you put a dot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that way. Go 6 the other direction. And then down. And then you can just make yourself, just kind of roughly sketch connecting those points. Make yourself a decent circle. All right? All right, let's try another one. So this one, let's try to figure out the center and the radius. Again, notice that whenever it's set up as x minus, that'll be your, that'll already be your coordinate set up. You don't have to change the sign when it's already x minus. So that means the h is going to be 2, and then the k, that one says y plus 1. So that means that we've got to change the sign. So that means it's 2, negative 1 is the center. And then the radius is always the square root of whatever's on the right-hand side. So the square root of 9 is 3. So there we have enough information to sketch our circle. So we're going to go over 2 and down 1. There's your nice center. Then we're going to go 3 in each direction. So we just count. So we go up 3, 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, put a dot. To the right, 1, 2, 3, put a nice dot. Go down 3, dot. Left 3, dot. And then just connect the dots. Nice smooth curve. Whoop, missed that one. My little stylus is trying to give me troubles today. Okay, so that should be good. All right, let's try another guy. So center, can you kind of do this a little bit better now? So center, what do you think? What should we say the center is? And let's say that it would be negative 3 and then positive 4. And then the radius, what do you think that should be? I miss the interactions with y'all. Like I'm from the south now, y'all. Okay, square root of 4, so that would be 2. Center, that would be negative 3, 4. So go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your center. And then the radius is 2, so we're going to go 2 in each direction. So you just go up 2, dot, right 2, left 2, down 2. And then you make your nice circle, smooth, bam. And last thing on part 1 here, the realtors are having to change how they do the things. So now they would say, hey, when they walk in, can you see yourself being quarantined here? It's a beautiful place to be quarantined. All right, so that's it for part 1, and then I'll make a separate one for part 2.